Ancient priests memorized 20 years of knowledge without writing a single word. Historians called it impossible. Then neuroscientists discovered they were using a technique so powerful, modern memory champions still cannot beat it today. In 58 BCE, Julius Caesar invaded Gaul and encountered something that stunned even Rome's most educated scholars. The Celtic Druids possessed knowledge that rivaled the greatest libraries of the ancient world. Yet they refused to write any of it down. Caesar himself documented this mystery. He wrote that Druid training required 20 full years of memorization. They learned the movements of stars, the nature of the physical universe, the power of the gods, and most importantly, thousands of verses of sacred law. Here is where it gets strange. When Roman scholars tested Druid knowledge against their own written records, the oral tradition proved more accurate. How could human memory outperform the written word? And why would anyone choose such a difficult path when writing existed? The answer lies hidden in a technique so powerful that it exploits the deepest architecture of the human brain itself. The technique is called the method of Loci, but you might know it as a memory palace. And here is what makes it extraordinary. Your brain evolved over millions of years to remember places, not facts. Our ancestors needed to recall exactly where predators hunted, where water flowed, and where food grew. Spatial memory became hardwired into our neural architecture. The Druids discovered something that modern neuroscience only confirmed in 2015. When you attach information to locations in a mental journey, you hijack this ancient navigation system. Brain scans show that memory palace users activate their hippocampus, the exact region that creates mental maps for physical navigation. If this is blowing your mind already, drop a like because what comes next is even more remarkable. The Druids did not just use memory palaces. They perfected a system so sophisticated that it could preserve entire legal codes, word for word, across generations. Now let me put this in perspective. Imagine memorizing every law in your country, word for word, including all amendments and legal interpretations. Then add the complete history of your nation, every major astronomical event for the next century, and thousands of religious verses. That was the minimum requirement for a Druid priest. But here is where it gets truly strange. The Druids deliberately rejected writing even though they knew how to write. Archaeological evidence proves they used Greek letters for business transactions. This was not ignorance. It was a conscious choice. Why would anyone make memorization harder on purpose? The answer reveals something profound about how memory actually works. When you write something down, your brain literally offloads the responsibility of remembering it. Psychologists call this the Google effect. The moment you know information is stored externally, your neural commitment to that information drops dramatically. Studies from 2011 showed something remarkable. Students who knew they could access notes later remembered significantly less than those who believed the information would be erased. The Druids understood this principle 2,000 years before psychology existed. By refusing to write, they forced their brains into total commitment. But the technique went even deeper than this. Greek geographer Strabo recorded that Druids taught their students using verse, not prose. Everything was poetry. And this was not an artistic choice. It was a memory technology. Rhythm creates neural scaffolding. When information follows a predictable beat, your brain processes it through both language centers and musical processing regions simultaneously. You are essentially encoding information twice with every sentence. Modern memory researchers call this dual coding, and it can increase retention by up to 40% compared to plain prose. The Druids built this directly into their curriculum. But that is not even the most incredible part. What I am about to reveal changes everything we thought we knew about ancient intelligence. In 2016, researchers discovered that memory palace techniques do not just improve memory. They physically restructure the brain. After just 6 weeks of training, participants showed measurable changes in their neural connectivity patterns. Their brains had literally rewired themselves. Now imagine 20 years of this practice. The Druid brain would have developed memory architecture that modern humans cannot even comprehend. And here is the evidence that proves it worked. When Christianity arrived in Ireland, monks began writing down the oral traditions for the first time. These transcriptions matched each other with extraordinary precision across different monasteries hundreds of miles apart. Texts that had been memorized for centuries by different Druid lineages were virtually identical. The system worked. Subscribe now if you want to see exactly how they achieved this. The specific technique involves something called elaborative encoding. You do not just place information in a mental location. You make it interact with that location in vivid, often absurd ways. Neuroscience shows that emotional and unusual memories activate the amygdala, creating stronger neural pathways. A Druid memorizing a law about cattle theft would not just picture a cow in their mental palace. They might visualize a giant purple cow crashing through their childhood home while singing. The absurdity is the technology. Roman author Cicero documented this exact technique in his rhetorical training, calling it artificial memory. He learned it from Greek sources who may have learned it from Celtic contacts. Drop your guess in the comments about what happens next because the final piece of this puzzle is coming. The Druids combined memory palaces, rhythmic verse, deliberate memorization, and one more element that multiplied the power of everything else. That element was social transmission. Druids did not memorize alone. They formed chains of knowledge, with senior priests constantly testing junior students through call and response rituals. Every piece of information was verified by multiple minds simultaneously. This created error correction that writing cannot match. When you copy a manuscript, errors compound across generations. But when 20 people memorize the same verse and constantly cross-check each other, mistakes get caught.